It was a legendary restaurant for about 25 years. I was promoted to the sous chef. So I went from a garde manger to the sous chef in this, this really kind of legendary restaurant.
Just as a get to know you question for everyone out there who loves food and wine and spirits, but they don't necessarily know your background so much. So you've been in the wine world, the hospitality world, the restaurant world for many years. As a get to know you, can you tell us about a celebration in your life that inspired you to join these industries?
Sure. First, I should say that when you introduced me, you said I was a chef and a restaurateur and all. That's true, but before I was a chef, I was a cook, and actually, before I was a cook, I was a dishwasher. I took a little bit of a break of college and went to Europe and traveled around, and then came back and wanted to come visit my sister in New York City, and so I did, and I ended up staying. And at a certain point, I thought, well, okay, I'm going to go back and finish my undergraduate degree, but I also want to get a job. So I walked into a place, could have been a shoe store or a gas station, but it happened to be a restaurant, one of the first restaurants in this area called Tribeca, when it just was starting to kind of take shape. And walked in there and said, hey, I'm looking for a job. And the person who was in the back that they sent me back to talk to in the kitchen was washing the dishes, and he said, "Yeah, I'm the owner. You want to wash dishes?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I started washing dishes there in this restaurant, and then after a while, I became a busboy on the floor, and then when I would come into work, oftentimes the kitchen was a little bit behind, so I would help them out, and I ended up going to the kitchen while I was, going to school at the same time. So, for me, it was a job. And while I was going to college in the village, after my classes in the evening, I found this tiny little restaurant on Greenwich Avenue in the village called Chez Brigitte. It was like a counter. Basically, they had two little tables on the side, but there was a counter there with about maybe 8 seats. And there was this French woman named Brigitte who was cooking food back there. And I started to go there, so I didn't go home, by myself and have supper. I started to get half bottles of wine from a nearby wine shop and took it to this place, Chez Brigitte, and I spoke French. I was talking to the woman cooking there. And that was sort of a celebration for me. And I was there all by myself. I would go there after my schooling before I went back home. So that was like a celebration. I would go there 2 or 3 times a week. And that was my own sort of really like dining, but it was very casual. I mean, it was an open kitchen, but that was sort of my celebration factor. And then after I finished my degree, I thought, well, I'm actually into cooking. I was cooking in this restaurant in Tribeca. And so I went and knocked on a door of a little restaurant in Soho, and which was called Chanterelle. It was a legendary restaurant for about 25 years. And the woman, the manager, the wife of the chef, Karen Weltuck, and David Weltuck was a chef, she said, she hired me. I was the third person. Before that, there were 2 people in the kitchen. I became the third person in the kitchen doing garde manger. And then after 6 or 9 months, I was promoted to the sous chef. So I went from a garde manger to the sous chef in this, this really kind of legendary restaurant. So that was my celebration that got me into the industry, was going to this little place, Chez Brigitte.
You've explained your background. Now, how can we help you? Tell us, whether it's you personally, you through the studio, or both, what websites could we be looking for you at? What social media? How can we find you? What are our next steps? How do we find you and follow you?
Well, one of the most important things is check out the website for the New York Wine Studio, which is and it's very simple. It's not a big site, but it talks about the programs, the IWS program with the schedule there mapped out and the four individual classes. So take a look at that, and it is newyorkwinestudio.com, of course. And there's also an email there, info@newyorkwinestudio.com. My own personal website is alantardi.com. So there's some stuff there. And I'm on pretty much, the main social media platforms, although I have to admit I don't always add a whole lot of stuff to them because I'd rather do it kind of in a more direct, let's put it that way,